Distraction is not external, it's internal avoidance. We often like to blame the external world for pulling our attention away. The ping of a phone, the noise of social media, the lure of entertainment. But these are merely tools. They are not the root cause. They are convenient scapegoats for an inner resistance, a refusal to fully confront the work, the silence, the discomfort of focused effort. What we label as distraction is often a subconscious strategy to avoid pain, fear, or emotional discomfort that comes with responsibility or discipline when you sit down to work and suddenly feel the urge to check your email or scroll through your phone. It's not because the phone called out to you. It's because your mind is fleeing from the task. The discomfort of sitting still, the weight of performance, the fear of failure. These are the true instigators. The external world merely offers the escape hatch. If you had no phone, your mind would still find a way to wander. The itch to avoid what matters would simply wear a different costume. This is why eliminating distractions from the outside never fully works. You can uninstall apps, lock your devices, and go off-grid, and yet still feel restless. You'll tidy your room, clean the kitchen, stare out the window, anything but face the blank page or the tough decision. Because distraction isn't solved by external restrictions alone. It must be dealt with internally, by developing the courage to face discomfort head. On people avoid focus because focus demands presence, and presence reveals the truth. How much you've delayed, how unprepared you are, how uncertain your next move might be. Presence is uncomfortable when you haven't been living honestly. So, distraction becomes a way to avoid that reckoning. It's not that you can't focus, it's that deep down, you're not sure if you want to see what focus might expose. Distraction also thrives on unresolved emotion. Unspoken resentment, anxiety about the future, shame about the past. These float beneath the surface, making it almost impossible to sit with a task. As soon as the mind quiets, the emotion surfaces. So you scramble for noise again. Until those emotions are confronted and processed, distraction becomes a self-soothing behavior. Not just a productivity issue, there's a level of self-sabotage hidden inside chronic distraction. Because part of you knows that focused action means progress, and progress demands change. Progress demands change, and change threatens comfort. So staying distracted becomes a twisted form of control. You're not failing, you're just a busy. You never have to find out what you're capable of because you never really try. It's safe. It's tragic. And it's chosen until you begin to examine what exactly you're avoiding. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You will stay stuck in cycles of half-effort and excuses. Distraction loses power when avoidance loses purpose. This requires radical honesty. Why am I reaching for my phone right now? What emotion am I avoiding by not doing this work? What truth am I afraid of seeing? Most people never ask these questions, and so they stay distracted for decades. The real antidote to distraction is not discipline alone. It's meaning. When you care deeply about something, distraction has no appeal. When your life has aim, discomfort becomes bearable. So if you want to stop being distracted, stop looking at your phone and start looking at your soul. That's where the real noise is coming from. Structure your time or chaos will do it for you. This is not a metaphor. It is a psychological law. A psychological law. The human mind is not designed to thrive in ambiguity. It spirals. It wanders. It invents problems where none exist. And in the absence of order, chaos enters. Not as a visitor, but as a ruler. If you do not impose structure on your day will be structured by distraction, impulse, and emotional drift. That is not freedom. That is servitude to entropy. When you wake up without a plan, you invite the unconscious to take the wheel. And the unconscious left unchecked will steer you toward what is easy, familiar, and comfortable, not what is meaningful. It does not care about your long-term goals. It only wants relief in the short term. So the coffee stretches into scrolling. The task becomes a thought. The day becomes a blur. And what could have been built becomes buried under idle time. The discipline of scheduling is not about rigidity. It is about protection. You are protecting what matters most from what matters least. You are setting boundaries on behalf of your future self. Because if you don't carve out time for deep work, shallow tasks will consume every available minute. Structure creates space. And space is where you think clearly, act deliberately, and make progress instead of motion. Ooh, yeah. Most people rebel against structure because they think it restricts freedom. They equate schedules with chains, but the truth is the opposite. Structure is the skeleton of freedom. Without a plan, you don't act freely. You react aimlessly. You let the world dictate your priorities instead of asserting your own. Every decision becomes reactive, every interruption accepted, every opportunity lost to aimlessness. The chaos that comes from unstructured time isn't just inefficient, it's demoralizing. You end the day unsure of what you did, but painfully aware that it wasn't enough. You feel tired without clarity, busy without progress, and slowly you lose trust in yourself. The inner voice that once said, "I can do this," becomes quieter each time you let the hours slip by without form or focus, without form or focus. Time is not passive, it's always moving. So you either direct it or get swept by it. That means writing things down. That means deciding the night before what matters in the morning. That means giving your day a hierarchy. This comes first, then that, and this gets no attention at all. These choices repeated daily create a life. Not a collection of memories, a life. There is nothing noble about spontaneity when it's just a mask for disorder. The most creative people, the most accomplished individuals, those whose lives have weight, are people who respect time by structuring it. They don't wait for clarity or motivation. They build it into the hours. They build it by assigning meaning to minutes and sticking to it, especially when it's inconvenient. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your system starts with time. You have to structure it like your life depends on it, because it does. Not in some grand existential crisis, but in the slow erosion of who you could have been if you let chaos run your calendar. Identify your highest value task and start with it. That's the lever that moves everything else. Most people drift through their day reacting to whatever feels urgent, but urgency is a poor substitute for importance. What matters most isn't always what screams the loudest. It's often what waits quietly, what demands deep focus, and what yields the greatest return on time invested. The discipline lies in discerning it, naming it, and confronting it first, before the noise of the world crowds it out. When you begin your day by facing the most valuable task, you assert dominance over distraction. You anchor the day in purpose. You shift from a reactive mindset to a proactive posture. This is not about finishing the easiest item on your list. It's about doing the one that, if completed, will make everything else simpler or even unnecessary. It's the task that contributes meaningfully to your long-term trajectory, not just your short-term relief. High-value tasks are often uncomfortable because they demand more of you. They require thinking, not just doing. They push you to wrestle with complexity, not just complete checkboxes. That discomfort is a signal, not of avoidance, but of significance. Most people numb themselves with shallow activity to avoid that discomfort, but the cost is steep. A life built on low-stakes repetition instead of high-stakes transformation. Clarity about your highest value task doesn't come from mere introspection. It comes from an honest confrontation with your goals. Ask, what moves the needle? What has consequences beyond today? What will I regret not doing a year from now? The answer to those questions will rarely be answering emails or tidying up loose ends. It will be the hard thing, the slow thing, the thing you're tempted to delay. The trap is to convince yourself that everything matters equally. It doesn't. There's a hierarchy of importance, and your job is to discover it. When everything is a priority, nothing is. That's how people stay busy without progress, drowning in tasks, but starved of purpose. The courage is in making trade-offs, in saying no to the noise, so you can say yes to what actually counts. Starting with your highest value task builds momentum that no motivational speech can replicate. It creates a rhythm of achievement that restructures how you see yourself. Instead of chasing productivity hacks or time-saving tricks, you change your identity from someone who procrastinates to someone who acts, from someone who reacts to someone who leads their own life. That shift is internal, and it's earned through repetition. This isn't about perfection. Some days you'll struggle. You'll start slow or start late. But the principle doesn't change. Begin with what matters most. If you win that battle, even for an hour, you've done something real. You've built weight into your day. You've earned the right to handle the less important things with less guilt and more clarity. Because the core is solid. The deepest form of respect you can show yourself is to invest your attention in what truly matters. You don't get more time. You only get better at using it. We will come see. And the only way to do that is to begin each day by identifying the highest value task and starting there, before the world can convince you otherwise. Cut the digital umbilical cord. The phrase is not metaphorical, it's surgical. The constant pull of screens has rewired our minds to crave novelty over depth, interruption over flow. Every ping, ding, and red notification bubble is a call to attention, and too often we answer like obedient children. What started as a tool has become a tether, and if we're honest, it owns us more than we own it. You're not free if you can't be alone without a screen. Think about that. You're not thinking your own thoughts if you can't sit in silence without reaching for a distraction. The digital world promises connection, but delivers fragmentation. It offers information, but steals concentration. Every scroll trains your brain to expect ease, immediacy, and constant novelty, and those are not the habits of a serious mind. Addiction to devices is not merely a bad habit. It's a spiritual distortion. It hollows out your attention span and fills it with noise. The tragedy is not just in wasted time. It's in the erosion of agency. When your first instinct in boredom or discomfort is to reach for a screen, you've outsourced the responsibility of your interior life to algorithms. You're no longer steering the ship. You're a passenger on someone else's course. Real thought, serious, focused thought, can't coexist with endless digital stimulation. It's like trying to light a fire in a wind tunnel. And yet we wonder why we can't concentrate, why we feel anxious, why we're always behind. It's not because we lack ability. It's because we've become habituated to fragmentation. And until we cut the digital cord, we can't build the mental scaffolding required for meaningful work or reflection. You must protect your attention, like it's a limited resource, because it is. Every hour spent jumping from app to app is an hour you're not using to build something of value. Boundaries aren't optional anymore. They're the prerequisite for sanity. Turn off notifications. Put the phone in another room. Set blocks of time where your mind belongs entirely to you and the task at hand, not to the feed or the algorithm. This is not about rejecting technology. It's about reclaiming sovereignty. The goal is not Luddite retreat, it's mastery. Use your phone for what serves your purpose, not what siphons your will. The question isn't how do I stay updated, but how do I stay undivided? Disconnection isn't regression, it's discipline. And in an age where attention is currency, your ability to withhold it is a form of wealth. There's a deeper silence waiting underneath the digital noise, one filled with insight, not emptiness. When you cut the cord, you begin to hear your own voice again. Not the voice programmed by echo chambers or filtered selfies, but the one that knows who you are and what matters. It's the voice that used to guide people before the entire world was available on demand. You don't need more access, you need more depth. If you want clarity, if you want peace, if you want a sense of control in a world designed to fracture your focus, there is no other option. You must turn the thing off. Not forever, but long enough to remember what it means to be human again. Long enough to remember that the most powerful things in life, presence, love, effort, stillness, don't come with a notification badge. Use ritual to signal seriousness. The modern world dismisses ritual as superstition or routine dressed in ceremony. But that's a profound misunderstanding. Ritual is not about mysticism. It's about preparation. It's about drawing a line between distraction and intention. When you create a ritual around your work, your growth, your goals, you teach your body and your mind that what you're about to do matters. The absence of ritual is not freedom, it's disarray. If everything begins the same way, with the same lack of structure, then nothing feels distinct. You drift. You wander into your tasks with the same mental posture you bring to checking the weather or scrolling through a feed. Ritual, even something as small as lighting a candle, sitting in a particular chair, or reviewing a list, carves out sacred space from ordinary time. Discipline requires more than willpower. It requires architecture. Ritual is that architecture. A consistent, intentional cue. The cup of tea, the walk around the block, the tightening of your shoelaces can prime your nervous system to expect effort, to enter flow, to step into the arena rather than loiter on the sidelines. Athletes do this. Musicians do this. Musicians do this. Professionals in any field that requires consistent peak performance understand this instinctively. You cannot rely on motivation because motivation is emotion, and emotion is volatile. But ritual creates conditions. It doesn't care if you feel like showing up. It says, this is what we do now. It says, this is what we do now. It bypasses the chaotic swirl of excuses and takes you directly to the threshold of engagement. Your ritual becomes your anchor, especially when everything around you feels unstable. Ritual also reinforces identity. When you ritualize the beginning of a task, you're saying, "This is who I am. This is what I do." You may not feel ready. You may not feel inspired. But the ritual reminds you that readiness comes after movement, not before. Ritual is action in the service of alignment. It signals to your subconscious that you're not just playing around. This is serious, this is worthy, this is real. People underestimate how easily they're thrown off course by their environment. Ritual counters this by making seriousness habitual. You don't start writing just anywhere, just anytime. You sit in the chair, open the notebook, take a breath. These steps aren't arbitrary. They're deliberate signals to your deeper mind. Without them, you risk showing up physically while remaining absent mentally. You need ritual not because you are weak, but because you are human. And humans forget. They lose focus. They waver. Ritual helps you remember. It cuts through resistance like a blade through fog. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to be consistent and honest. A truth you enact with your body so your mind will follow. In a culture addicted to novelty and immediacy, ritual slows you down in the right way. It marks the threshold between chaos and creation, between being reactive and being deliberate. If your days feel like a blur, if your goals feel distant, if your effort lacks bite, then it may not be your intention that's the problem. It might be your lack of ritual. Build stamina for boredom. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Every meaningful pursuit, every great work, every deep relationship, every worthy transformation is stitched together with long stretches of monotony. Our culture has tricked us into believing that passion alone should carry us, that everything worthwhile should feel exciting or effortless. But that is an illusion sold to us by dopamine-fueled platforms and marketed lives. In reality, the bridge between where you are and where you want to be is paved with repetition, silence, and boredom. Boredom isn't failure. It's friction. And friction is where growth happens. When you're bored, it means the novelty has worn off. The easy hits of stimulation are gone, and you're left with the raw reality of the task. That's when most people quit. But those who keep going, those who press through the discomfort of boredom, build something irreplaceable: mental stamina. They train themselves not to require constant stimulation. They grow stronger than the culture around them. You don't become wise by chasing excitement. You become wise by sitting with the slow burn of effort. Boredom isn't just part of the process, it is the process. The artist returns to the same brushstroke. The pianist rehearses the same passage. The athlete drills the same move. Mastery is monotony repeated with intention. And if you can't bear the quiet, uneventful parts, you will never reach the extraordinary ones. The capacity to endure boredom is a rare form of courage today. Everything is engineered to steal your attention. Everything is gamified. Flashing, pinging, swiping, pinging, swiping. And the moment you begin to feel even a trace of dullness, you're tempted to escape. But real power comes from resisting that impulse, from choosing to stay, from saying, "This is not entertaining, but it is necessary." Training for boredom is training for life. Because life in its deepest form isn't always exhilarating. It's often quiet. It's routine. It's found in the small decisions you make every single day when no one is watching. The decision to show up, to write the page, to keep walking, to say no to the easier distraction. Each of those decisions is a vote for your future self. Boredom is not the enemy of productivity. It is the furnace in which discipline is forged. Those who cannot tolerate boredom will never finish what they start. They'll hop from idea to idea, from job to job, from promise to promise, leaving a trail of half-built lives behind them. But those who embrace boredom as a sign of seriousness, those who keep building in silence, develop the endurance that outpaces talent and enthusiasm alike. It's easy to be great when the work is new. It's far harder to be consistent when the spark fades. That's when boredom becomes a test of identity. Will you still act like the person you aspire to be, even when it doesn't feel exciting? Can you stay loyal to your values when the results are invisible and the applause is absent? That's the kind of resilience boredom demands. So build stamina for boredom, because boredom is a doorway. It's what stands between amateurs and professionals, between dabblers and craftsmen, between daydreams and legacy. If you can learn to sit with it, move through it, and still do the work anyway, then boredom won't be a weakness. It will be your training ground for greatness. Track your attention like a predator, because your attention is not passive. It's the most valuable, finite resource you possess. And if you're not the one directing it, something else is. Every platform, every screen, every notification is designed not just to catch your attention, but to hold it, to drain it, to redirect it away from what matters most. You must become ruthless about noticing where your focus goes, because what you focus on determines the trajectory of your life. A predator does not chase everything in the field. It locks onto the target, it watches, it waits, it calculates. That's how you must treat your time and focus. When you sit down to work, to write, to build, ask yourself, what am I looking at? What is pulling my eyes, my mind, my emotion? Well, most people drift unconsciously from tab to tab, screen to screen, responding rather than hunting. You cannot afford that drift if you want a meaningful life. Attention is not just about discipline. It's about identity. What you repeatedly attend to becomes you, comes you. If you spend every morning scrolling fear, outrage, distraction, then that's what you become fluent in. If instead you attend to clarity, truth, structure, you sharpen those muscles. Your daily attention is like sunlight. Whatever you shine it on grows. That includes weeds and rot. If you're careless, you're careless. Tracking your attention is not about guilt. It's about power. You cannot change what you do not see. So watch yourself. Where does your mind go when you're bored? Where does it escape to when something feels hard? Do you reach for the phone? Do you open a new tab? Do you avoid the task by pretending to research? That's not failure. That's data. Data. That's the beginning of awareness. This is not just spiritual advice. It's biological. Neurologically, attention wires the brain. What you fire, you wire. Every distraction indulged makes distraction easier next time. Every moment of focus trains your system to return to what matters. The brain learns by repetition, and most people are teaching themselves to be fragmented. But you can train for precision, just like you can train for strength. Imagine yourself in the room. At your desk, in your work, in your life, like a hunter in the wild. Quiet, focused, aware. You don't look at every noise in the trees. You don't panic at every rustle. You stay fixed on the signal, not the noise. That's how deep work is done. That's how clarity is born. That's how long-term progress is made in a world that rewards short-term reaction. The question you must ask is not just, am I distracted? But am I even noticing when I am? Because the moment you notice, you regain agency. You can intervene. You can intervene. You can pull yourself back from the cliff of endless scrolling, vortex of mindless consumption, the trance of passivity. And that moment of pulling back, of saying a no to the easy thing, is the seed of freedom. To track your attention is to take yourself seriously. It's to say, my time is not disposable. My focus is not for sale. My future is worth more than cheap novelty. And if you can hold that posture, not once, not occasionally, but daily, you begin to walk a different path. One not dictated by noise, but defined by purpose. Your future is buried under your distractions. Not behind them, not past them, but under them, suffocated by the very things you indulge in when you're avoiding discomfort. Every notification you check, every meaningless scroll, every quick dopamine hit buries your potential a little deeper. And the tragedy is that most people will never dig. They will live buried alive under the very distractions they thought were harmless. Distraction isn't neutral. It's a form of self-betrayal. Every time you choose distraction over intention, you are choosing temporary relief over permanent transformation. You are saying yes to the immediate and no to the meaningful. And it's rarely a conscious decision. That's what makes it dangerous. It's automatic. You justify it with, I need a break, or just 5 minutes. But the clock doesn't care, and neither does your future. The future you crave, the clarity, the mastery, the peace, the impact, it demands attention. It demands depth. But depth is incompatible with constant interruption. If your mind is divided, your life will be fragmented. If your energy is scattered, your results will be diluted. The life you want cannot survive on scraps of attention. It needs focus, the kind that's built through resistance, through saying no, through doing the thing when every part of you wants to flee. The more you distract yourself, the more you become someone who avoids, who escapes, who copes instead of confronts. Over time, that becomes your story, one of unrealized potential, of vague regret, of quiet despair. And it always starts small. A little procrastination, a little entertainment, a little detour. But over months, over years, those little things stack into a life you didn't choose. You don't eliminate distraction by willpower alone. You have to dig. You have to ask what you're really avoiding. Because behind every distraction is something uncomfortable. The blank page, the difficult conversation, the fear of failure, the fear of success. Distraction is anesthesia. It numbs, and people don't numb themselves unless they're in pain. So you did not just to get more done, but to understand why you're not doing it in the first place. There's a reason the most meaningful work always begins in solitude. Because distraction thrives on noise, and meaning thrives in silence. If you want to find your future, you have to be willing to sit in the quiet long enough to hear what it's asking of you. That means turning off the noise. That means creating space. That means being bored. Boredom is not the enemy. It's the doorway back to focus. The deeper tragedy is that modern distraction is engineered. It's not just bad luck or bad habits, it's a business model. You are the product, your time, your attention, your peace. That's what's being sold. And unless you take back the reins, your life will be one long advertisement for someone else's agenda. That's the cost of not protecting your attention. Your future becomes collateral damage in someone else's profit machine. To live undistracted is an act of rebellion. It means confronting the lie that you need to be always connected, always updated, always stimulated. It means choosing the hard road, the one with silence, repetition, delayed gratification. But that road is where all growth begins. That road is where the future you're burying is waiting to be unearthed.